Jedi bashing. It's a sport beloved by a significant portion of the Star Wars fandom, and over the years, it has evolved into a tradition. Fans, critics, and even some official Star Wars media have taken their swings at the Order. On this channel, we've often found ourselves defending the Jedi, pointing out their virtues and the immense challenges they faced. But today, we're switching gears. We're putting the Jedi Order on trial. Not a legal trial, but a Q-style worthiness trial. Think Star Trek, The Next Generation, with you, our community, playing the role of Q. Over the past month, we asked for your arguments against the Jedi Order, and boy, did you deliver. Nearly 600 comments, each with its own take on the Order's flaws, failings, and controversies. Today, we're breaking those criticisms down into 3 categories: arguments we think are misguided, arguments we believe we can rebut, and arguments we don't have a full answer to. At the end, we'll deliver our verdict, but we encourage you to share your own in the comments below. Now, let's get started. The first argument we're addressing is one we've dubbed the Gray Jedi argument. The idea here is that the Jedi misunderstood balance in the Force, treating the light and dark sides as opposites, when they should have embraced both, like a cosmic yin-yang. It's a compelling metaphor, but it fundamentally misunderstands the Force. The so-called light side isn't an equal half. It's the Force in its natural state, a guiding will for the universe's collective good. The dark side, on the other hand, is a perversion, a destructive force driven by selfishness and unchecked ambition. Teaching younglings about the dark side? That's like giving kids matches and saying, here's how not to burn the house down. The Jedi understood the dangers and kept their focus on the light for a reason. The next argument revolves around the Jedi's inability to prevent Darth Sidious's rise. Critics say the Jedi were arrogant, complacent, and too focused on the past. But here's the thing, Sidious played a long game, one the Jedi were never equipped to counter. The Sith adapted, while the Jedi didn't. Yoda himself admits in Revenge of the Sith that the Order was prepared to fight the last war, not the one Sidious waged. And even if the Jedi had seen through every step of his plan, they were boxed in by the Republic's politics and public perception. Refuse to fight? They'd be branded traitors. Join the fight? They played right into Sidious's hands. This wasn't just a failure of the Jedi. It was a testament to Sidious's unparalleled cunning. Finally, we turn to criticisms we don't have complete answers to. One of the most compelling arguments is the Jedi's use of the clone army. Despite their suspicions about its origins and the moral questions surrounding its creation, they chose to lead an army of beings bred for war. Did they have a choice? Not really. Once the Republic adopted the army, the Jedi were conscripted as generals. Refusal wasn't an option. But that doesn't absolve them of complicity in a system that treated sentient beings as disposable. Even now, it's hard to say what the Jedi should have done. But it's a question worth asking, and one that challenges the idealized image of the Order. So, what's the verdict? Were the Jedi deeply flawed? Absolutely. Did they fail in significant ways? Without a doubt. But were those failures born of arrogance and corruption, or the impossibility of their situation? Our take: the Jedi weren't perfect, but they were trying to uphold ideals in a galaxy stacked against them. Now it's your turn. Are the Jedi worth defending? Or do their flaws outweigh their virtues? Let us know in the comments, and as always, may the Force, or whatever guides your galaxy, be with you. The Jedi Order. Heroes to some, villains to others, and to many deeply flawed figures trying to do their best in a galaxy spiraling into chaos. On this channel, we've often explored the brilliance of the Jedi, what they represented and what they achieved. But today, we're stepping back. We're going to give their critics the floor. Using your comments from our community post as the foundation, we'll dissect the Jedi Order's legacy. Were they wise protectors of peace, or blind zealots who contributed to their own downfall? As the saying goes, history is written by the victors, or in this case, by the survivors. The Sith are gone, the Jedi legacy lingers, and the judgment? Well, that's up to us. One of the most common arguments we saw was the idea of the Gray Jedi. Many commenters suggested the Jedi erred by rejecting the dark side outright, claiming that balance meant harmony between light and dark. But let's take a closer look at that. The Force isn't a 50-50 split between two equally valid ideologies. The so-called light side, though never referred to as such in the original saga, is simply the Force in its natural state. It's life-affirming, nurturing, and aligned with the collective will of the galaxy. The dark side? It's an aberration. a shortcut driven by selfishness and greed, twisting the Force to serve personal desires at the expense of everything else. Teaching younglings about the dark side wouldn't have helped. It would have ensured their downfall. Even a small taste of the dark side is like playing with fire in a room full of fuel tanks. The Jedi knew this, which is why they forbade its use. Were they strict? Sure. But sometimes strict rules exist for a reason. One of the most damning arguments against the Jedi is their involvement in the Clone Wars. The Jedi, defenders of peace, willingly became generals in a war fought with an army of slaves bred for combat. It's a moral contradiction that's hard to ignore. Here's the thing, the Jedi didn't choose this. When the clone army was discovered, the Republic claimed ownership, and Palpatine issued executive orders conscripting the Jedi as military leaders. If they refused, they'd be branded traitors and exterminated. But that doesn't absolve them. The Jedi could have stepped back, taken a stand, refused to fight regardless of the consequences. They didn't. And as noble as their intentions might have been, their decision to lead the clones, sentient beings bred for war, cast a long shadow over their legacy. Another major criticism revolves around the Jedi's inability to stop Darth Sidious. Some argue their arrogance, complacency, and focus on past wars blinded them to the threat right under their noses. And to an extent, that's true. The Jedi spent centuries preparing to fight the Sith of old, Sith who wielded brute force and massive armies. But Sidious didn't play by those rules. He played a political game, clouding the Jedi's vision and turning their own code against them. As Yoda himself realized, the Sith had evolved. They adapted, grew in subtlety and cunning. The Jedi didn't. By the time the Jedi discovered the true scope of Sidious's plan, it was already too late. Even the greatest generals can't win a war when every move they make is anticipated and countered. So, what do we make of the Jedi? Were they noble heroes or misguided zealots? Honestly, they were a bit of both. The Jedi Order was an institution bound by tradition, struggling to uphold ideals in a galaxy designed to test them. Their greatest flaw was their rigidity, an inability to adapt to a changing galaxy. But their intentions, those were noble. They fought for peace, for balance, for life itself. And while they failed in many ways, their legacy endures as a testament to the struggle between light and darkness in all of us. But what do you think? Was the Jedi Order a force for good, or were they architects of their own downfall? Drop your verdict in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this analysis, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Until next time, may the Force or your guiding principles be with you. When we examine the flaws and triumphs of the Jedi Order, it's easy to focus on the details. Their strict code, their failures in the Clone Wars, their blindness to Sidious's plot. But let's zoom out for a moment. What can we, as viewers and storytellers, learn from their legacy? At their core, the Jedi were about more than just the Force or the lightsaber. They represented ideals, selflessness, compassion, and a commitment to the greater good. These principles are timeless, but they also come with challenges. How do you adapt unwavering values in a world or galaxy that's constantly changing? How do you balance personal agency with a responsibility to others? The Jedi Code itself, while noble, was rigid. It called for detachment, which protected Jedi from the dark side but also left them disconnected from the people they swore to protect. Anakin Skywalker's fall is the ultimate cautionary tale here, not just of personal failure, but of systemic failure. The Jedi didn't prepare him for the emotional complexity of the galaxy he lived in, and it cost them dearly. Let's engage in some speculation. Could the Jedi have survived if they'd made different choices? What if they had rejected their role in the Clone Wars? What if they had adapted their teachings to embrace emotional growth instead of suppressing it? It's tempting to imagine a world where the Jedi foresaw Sidious's plans and adapted in time. Maybe they could have avoided their downfall. But the truth is, their destruction was as much a product of external forces as internal flaws. Palpatine's scheme was brilliantly calculated, and the galaxy itself was primed for division and conflict. The Jedi were outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and ultimately out of time. The Jedi may have fallen, but their story didn't end with Order 66. Luke Skywalker's journey, Rey's rediscovery of the Force, and even the philosophies of characters like Ahsoka Tano remind us that the Jedi legacy is more than an institution. It's an idea. Luke's disillusionment with the Jedi Order in The Last Jedi wasn't a rejection of their ideals, but a challenge to their dogma. It was a call to evolve, to rebuild something better from the ashes of the past. Rey, in turn, represents the hope that the Jedi can rise again, not as a rigid institution, but as a living, breathing philosophy that adapts to the galaxy's needs. So where does the Jedi story go from here? That's a question for the storytellers of tomorrow, and for all of us as fans. We've seen the rise and fall of the Jedi Order. Now, we get to imagine what a truly balanced legacy might look like. The Jedi Order may be gone, but their story remains one of the most compelling in all of Star Wars. It's a story of hope, failure, redemption, and the eternal struggle between light and darkness. As we wrap up, we leave you with one final question. If you were tasked with rebuilding the Jedi Order, what would you change? How would you preserve their ideals while avoiding their mistakes? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Jedi Order. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your fellow Star Wars fans. And remember, no matter which side of the Force you lean toward, your voice is part of this galaxy's ongoing story. Until next time, may the Force or your inspiration guide you. Stories like Star Wars resonate with us because they're more than just tales of adventure. They reflect our struggles, our aspirations, and the choices we face as individuals and societies. When we critique the Jedi Order, we're not just exploring the failings of fictional monks with lightsabers. We're holding up a mirror to our own world. The Jedi Order story can teach us a lot about the nature of institutions. Whether it's a government, a religious organization, or a cultural movement, institutions often struggle to balance their ideals with the realities of the world they operate in. The Jedi Order's fall wasn't just about a single mistake. It was the culmination of systemic rigidity, a failure to adapt, and an inability to foresee how the world around them was changing. Sound familiar? Think about how often we see this dynamic in our own history. Empires rise and fall, religions splinter and evolve, and movements that once inspired hope can stagnate or lose their way when faced with new challenges. Like the Jedi, we often cling to tradition, even when it no longer serves us. But the fall of the Jedi also teaches us that renewal is always possible. Just as Luke and Rey sought to rebuild a better, more flexible Jedi Order, we too have the power to reshape the systems around us, to preserve the good, learn from the bad, and create something better for the future. The Jedi story also raises questions about the balance between individual agency and collective responsibility. Jedi teachings emphasize selflessness and service, but at what cost? Their suppression of personal connections of love and attachment was meant to protect them from the dark side, but it also left them emotionally stunted, unable to fully empathize with those they served. In our own lives, we grapple with similar tensions. How much of ourselves should we give to our families, our communities, or our work? At what point does selflessness become self-neglect? The Jedi fell in part because they ignored this balance. They became so focused on the needs of the galaxy that they forgot to nurture the humanity within themselves. Perhaps the lesson here is that we're strongest when we embrace both, when we find ways to serve the greater good while staying connected to the things and people that make life worth living. Star Wars is a story about choices. It reminds us that even in our darkest moments, redemption is possible. The Jedi failed Anakin, but in the end, his son's compassion gave him the chance to choose differently. Similarly, Kylo Ren's story shows us that even those consumed by darkness can find their way back to the light. In the end, our choices define us, not our failures. The Jedi Order may have fallen, but the individuals who carry their legacy forward remind us that redemption is always within reach, both for ourselves and for the institutions we build. So, what does balance look like in our world? Is it a perfect harmony between opposing forces? Or is it the constant striving for growth, understanding, and renewal? The Jedi's legacy is a call to action, not to wield lightsabers or follow a mystical code, but to pursue balance in our own lives, to stand for justice while seeking peace, to act with courage while practicing compassion, and above all, to believe that even in a galaxy filled with darkness, there's always hope for the light. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you've enjoyed this exploration of the Jedi Order and the lessons it holds, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, your story matters. Whether you're a Jedi, a rebel, or just someone trying to find their way in the galaxy, you're part of something greater than yourself. Would you like to include a specific call to action or teaser for the next episode? Heroes come in many forms. Some are born to greatness, like Anakin Skywalker, while others, like Rey, rise to the occasion. In every era, heroes define the direction of history, not just through acts of valor, but by making choices that echo through time. The Jedi believed they were the guardians of peace and justice, but it wasn't just their actions that shaped the galaxy. It was the example they set. Much like how our world is shaped not only by governments and institutions, but by the everyday heroes among us. Heroes who fight not only for themselves, but for something larger than themselves, a vision of a better world. The downfall of the Jedi wasn't just the result of the Sith's machinations, it was the result of their own complacency. The Jedi, despite their wisdom, fell into the trap of centralized power. The more they concentrated authority in their council, the more disconnected they became from the people they were supposed to protect. Even well-intentioned leaders can become out of touch when they hold too much power. The Jedi's inability to recognize the rise of the Sith within their ranks can be seen as a cautionary tale. When we allow power to become too concentrated, whether in our institutions or our relationships, we risk becoming blind to the changes happening around us. In today's world, we must ask ourselves, how can we ensure our institutions remain responsive, inclusive, and accountable to the people they serve? Despite their flaws, the Jedi did get one thing right. They understood the importance of community. The Jedi Order, at its best, was about service. It wasn't just about wielding power or enforcing a rigid code. It was about forging connections and understanding the needs of the galaxy's diverse species and cultures. We can take a page from the Jedi's book by remembering that the heart of any strong society is empathy. It's about listening, understanding, and acting with compassion, just as the Jedi sought to serve not their own interests, but the needs of others. The Jedi's legacy is one of contradictions. On one hand, their code represents a path to enlightenment, peace, and balance. On the other, their fall illustrates the danger of dogma, rigidity, and the failure to adapt. But even in their downfall, they left us with a powerful message. The future is shaped by the choices we make today. Rey's journey was about more than becoming the last Jedi. It was about rediscovering the true meaning of the Force, not as an institution, but as a tool for personal growth, balance, and unity. By choosing to learn from the past, while forging her own path, Rey symbolized the opportunity for renewal and transformation. Just as Rey chose to embrace the lessons of the past while forging a new path, we too have the power to choose. The Jedi taught us that destiny isn't set in stone. It's shaped by the choices we make. At the heart of the Star Wars saga lies hope. Hope that things can get better. Hope that no matter how dark the world becomes, there is always the possibility of redemption, change, and rebirth. Hope is not just an abstract concept. It's a tangible force, a motivator, a catalyst for action. The Jedi understood this on some level. When faced with the Sith, with the Empire, with overwhelming odds, their ability to hope and keep fighting is what allowed them to continue. And even when they failed, their hope lived on through others, through the rebellion, through Luke, and eventually through Rey. Cut to inspiring moments from Earth's history, people uniting after wars, rebuilding after disasters, and fighting for justice against oppressive systems. In our own world, we face crises of our own. Environmental collapse, political upheaval, and social division. But if we remember the lessons of the Jedi and the legacy of hope they left behind, we can overcome adversity together. Final reflection, embracing the future. Ultimately, the Star Wars saga is more than just a space opera. It's a story about the choices we make, the legacies we leave, and the future we create. Whether we're Jedi or not, we all have a role to play. The Force is within us all. And with each choice, each act of compassion, we can shape a better tomorrow for the galaxy. The Force will be with you. Always. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Jedi Order and its many lessons. Stay tuned for more insights, and may the Force guide you on your journey. Until next time. Would you like any additional themes or segments included, or specific directions for the next episode? The Jedi Code was not just a set of rules. It was a philosophy, a way of life that aimed to bring balance to the galaxy. But while it emphasized peace, discipline, and self-control, it also posed challenges. The Jedi's attempt to remove attachment, emotion, and personal desire was rooted in their fear of the dark side. Yet, the true power of the Force may not lie in suppression, but in balance. The Jedi tried to balance their emotions through strict control. But in doing so, they became disconnected from their humanity. In their pursuit of detachment, they neglected the very emotions that define us: love, fear, anger, and hope. Anakin Skywalker's fall wasn't due to emotion alone. It was the fear of loss, the fear of not being able to save those he loved, that ultimately led him to the dark side. In life, we see similar struggles. Many of us are taught to suppress emotions in the name of productivity, discipline, or success. But emotions are not inherently evil. They are powerful forces that can drive us to do incredible things. The true lesson is not to suppress emotions, but to understand and control them, to harness their energy for good. The Force is a duality, light and dark, good and evil. But the distinction is not as simple as it seems. The Jedi and Sith represent two extremes. The Jedi seek to bring peace by embracing the light side, while the Sith embrace the dark side, seeking power and control. But both paths have their flaws. The Jedi's strict adherence to the light side leads them to a form of detachment, where they lose their connection to the broader emotions that drive human experience. On the other hand, the Sith allow their emotions to control them, leading them to tyranny and chaos. But what if the true power of the Force lies not in choosing one side over the other, but in the balance between them? Just as in life, the key is not to reject our emotions, but to find harmony within them, to learn from both the light and dark, and to embrace the full spectrum of human experience without being consumed by it. Mentorship is one of the cornerstones of the Jedi tradition. From Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon to Yoda and Luke, the Jedi were not just teachers, they were guides. They understood that wisdom and knowledge had to be passed on, so the next generation could learn from the mistakes of the past. Whether we're talking about a Jedi Knight or a mentor in our own lives, the relationship between teacher and student is sacred. Mentorship shapes us, influences our decisions, and ultimately impacts the direction of our future. The Jedi Order, despite its faults, held to the belief that their teachings could ensure a better tomorrow. Their failures, however, were also a lesson. No system is perfect, and no mentor is infallible. It's through these mistakes that the Jedi legacy lives on, through their students. And in our world, the true impact of mentorship lies not in creating perfect people, but in teaching others how to navigate imperfection and grow from it. As we look back on the history of the Jedi, we can't ignore the fact that the galaxy's greatest heroes didn't come from the traditional ranks of the Order. Rey, the last Jedi, was not bound by the old ways. She came from nothing, with no family ties to the Force, yet her ability to rise above the darkness and claim her place as a symbol of hope is a testament to the power of the individual. In our world, too, new heroes are rising. They don't come from the established systems, the institutions of power. They are ordinary people who choose to stand up, to make a difference, and to fight for a better future. Rey's story is the story of every person who feels powerless but refuses to give up on the fight. The Force is not just a mythical energy field. It's a metaphor for the power that resides within each of us. The Jedi, with all their wisdom and their flaws, remind us that we all have the ability to shape our destiny. And just like the Jedi, we can choose to fight for the light, to stand for justice, and to make a positive impact in our world. So, what is the legacy we will leave? Will we let fear, anger, or apathy guide us? Or will we rise like the Jedi before us and fight for a better tomorrow? Remember, the Force is within all of us. It's not just about wielding power, it's about using that power wisely. And through that, we can all be heroes in our own right. The Force will be with you, always. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of the Jedi Order and the greater lessons it holds for us all. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Until next time, may the Force guide you. Would you like to explore more about the Jedi or different aspects of Star Wars for future content? Or perhaps dive deeper into the philosophy behind the Force? The Sith, fear, anger, hatred. Their beliefs are rooted in the pursuit of power, the rejection of peace, and the embrace of passion. But while their philosophy may seem seductive, it's also their greatest downfall. The Sith believe that through conflict, they can achieve strength. Yet, in reality, it is their obsession with power that ultimately leads to their destruction. The Sith are defined by their dark side philosophy, the rule of two, one to embody power, the other to crave it. This endless cycle of ambition and betrayal is their path, but it is a path that ultimately leads to a broken and hollow existence. Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, was seduced by the Sith's promise of power, believing that it could bring an end to the suffering of his loved ones. But the dark side consumed him, leaving him lost, isolated, and ultimately destroyed by the very thing he sought to control. Redemption. It's a concept that resonates deeply throughout the Star Wars saga. Anakin Skywalker's journey from Jedi Knight to Sith Lord and ultimately to his redemption as Darth Vader, speaks to the possibility of change, no matter how dark the path has been. Anakin's fall was inevitable in many ways, but his redemption wasn't just a return to the light. It was an acceptance of his humanity. Through his son, Luke, Anakin was reminded of the good within him, of the love and hope he once held dear. Even in the darkest moments, there is hope. Kylo Ren, the son of Han Solo and Leia Organa, was another example of someone who struggled with their legacy in the darkness within. But in his final moments, his choice to embrace the light and let go of his anger shows that redemption is always possible, no matter the depth of the darkness. The burden of legacy is one that every character in Star Wars carries. Whether it's the weight of being the last Jedi or the last Sith, or the expectation of greatness passed down from one generation to the next, legacy is a powerful force. It's what drives characters like Rey, Luke, and even Kylo Ren to question who they are and who they are meant to be. For Rey, the question wasn't just about who she was, but what she could become. The absence of a grand legacy was both her greatest weakness and her greatest strength. She wasn't bound by the past. She could choose her own path. And in doing so, she became the beacon of hope for a new generation. The legacy of the Jedi is not just a burden. It's an opportunity to define oneself, to make a mark on history. The weight of past decisions can be heavy, but it is how we carry that weight that defines us. The Mandalorians, a warrior culture as old as the Jedi, embody a different kind of strength. Their code is not based on the Force, but on their own principles: honor, loyalty, and the unyielding will to fight for what they believe in. Unlike the Jedi, the Mandalorians don't rely on the mystical Force to guide them. Instead, they depend on their physical abilities, their ingenuity, and their devotion to their people. Their culture is built on the idea that survival is earned, not given, and that strength lies in unity. Boba Fett, the bounty hunter, was a symbol of the Mandalorian ethos: tough, pragmatic, and fiercely independent. But beneath the armor, he too faced a search for meaning and identity. His journey, like that of the Jedi, is one of reconciling past mistakes and seeking purpose in a galaxy that constantly shifts. The future of the Jedi Order is uncertain. With the rise of new forces, the rebirth of the Sith, and the return of ancient threats, the Jedi must adapt. They cannot cling to outdated beliefs if they wish to survive. The next generation of Force users will need to find a new way forward, one that acknowledges the mistakes of the past and embraces a future built on balance. Rey, the last Jedi, is not just rebuilding the Jedi Order. She is redefining it. The lessons of the past will inform her teachings, but she will also pave the way for a new path. A path that may one day see the Jedi no longer bound by the past, but fully integrated into the broader galaxy, helping bring balance to the Force once and for all. Star Wars is more than just a tale of light and dark. It is a reflection of the human experience, the constant struggle between our higher ideals and our baser instincts. From the fall of the Jedi to the rise of new heroes, it's a story about finding balance in a universe that is always shifting. The Force is within each of us, and it is our choices, our actions, and our ability to find harmony that will determine the future of the galaxy. Whether Jedi or Sith, Mandalorian or Rebel, we all have a role to play in a grand story. The legacy of Star Wars is not only one of heroes and villains, it's a legacy of hope, redemption, and the constant search for balance. The Force will be with you always. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Star Wars saga. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Until next time, may the Force guide you on your journey. The fall of the Galactic Empire left a power vacuum in the galaxy, but it also paved the way for something new: the rise of the New Republic. This democratic government, born from the ashes of the rebellion, symbolizes hope, unity, and the desire to rebuild what was lost. However, as idealistic as the New Republic was, its leaders faced challenges. The lingering shadow of the Empire, in the form of factions like the First Order, sought to undermine this fragile democracy. The galaxy's struggle between order and freedom is not easily resolved. The New Republic's rise was not without its flaws. The failure to address the threat of the First Order in its infancy, the division among its leaders, and the slow, sometimes ineffective governance all play a role in its eventual downfall. The First Order's emergence was a result of the galaxy's inability to heal after the fall of the Empire. Formed from the remnants of imperial loyalists and militaristic extremists, the First Order sought to control the galaxy through fear, intimidation, and their terrifying technological advancements. Kylo Ren, the leader of the First Order, embodies the extremes of both the light and dark sides of the Force. Torn between his heritage as the son of Han Solo and Leia Organa and his desire to embrace the darkness, Kylo Ren's struggle is a reflection of the wider conflict within the galaxy. Kylo Ren represents the danger of the galaxy's unresolved conflicts. His obsession with power, stemming from his desire to live up to the legacy of Darth Vader, pushes him further into darkness. But despite his descent into evil, there remains a flicker of light, a part of him that longs for connection, for belonging, and ultimately for redemption. Against the overwhelming power of the First Order, the Resistance stands as a beacon of hope. A group of rebels, driven by the same ideals that birthed the rebellion, fights not just for survival, but for the freedom of the galaxy. Leia Organa, the daughter of Anakin Skywalker, has always been more than a leader. She is a symbol of resistance, of the power of love and compassion in the face of tyranny. Her leadership reminds us that the fight for justice is never easy, but it's always worth it. The resistance is not just about leadership. It's about individuals who take a stand, no matter the odds. Characters like Poe Dameron, Finn, and Rey, each one plays a vital role in ensuring that the flame of rebellion never fades and that the galaxy remains free. Anakin Skywalker's legacy is one of the most tragic in the galaxy. His rise from a slave on Tatooine to the Chosen One, destined to bring balance to the Force, was marred by his fear, anger, and eventual fall to the dark side. Anakin's fall was not inevitable. His fear of loss, his desire for control, and his personal insecurities led him to make decisions that would not only alter his life, but the fate of the galaxy. In a way, his story is a reflection of the consequences of unchecked power, of letting emotions like fear and anger dictate our actions. But even in the darkest moments, there is hope. Anakin's redemption as Darth Vader, his final act of selflessness to save his son, was the fulfillment of his true destiny. He did bring balance to the Force, but it was not through power or destruction. It was through love, sacrifice, and the courage to change. The Force is a delicate balance between light and dark, each side capable of great power, but also great destruction. The Jedi believe in peace, serenity, and harmony with the Force, while the Sith seek domination and control. Yet, both sides are flawed. Rey's journey is not just about defeating the Sith or the First Order. It's about finding a balance within herself. The true power of the Force lies not in choosing one side, but in understanding that both light and dark exist within all of us. It's how we choose to balance those forces that define our path. The path to balance is not easy. It's not about rejecting one side or the other. It's about learning to live with both. Rey's journey teaches us that the Force is not a weapon to be wielded, but a tool to be understood and embraced. Only then can we find true peace. Star Wars is not just a story of past heroes and villains. It's a story that continues to unfold. As new generations of fans discover the galaxy far, far away, the saga evolves, expanding in new and exciting directions. With each new chapter, the Force continues to guide us, reminding us that the battle between light and dark will never truly end. The future of Star Wars is boundless, with new characters, new stories, and new lessons to teach us. Whether you're a longtime fan or a new one, Star Wars will continue to inspire, challenge, and captivate. The legacy of the Force lives on, not just in the heroes we know, but in all of us. Thank you for watching. The adventure is far from over. May the Force be with you always. Rey's journey from scavenger to Jedi is one of the most profound transformations in Star Wars history. Her discovery of the Force, her battle against the darkness, and her struggle to understand her place in the galaxy are not just her own. They are the journey of the entire galaxy. Rey's path is one of self-discovery, as she comes to understand that being a Jedi is not about titles or bloodlines, but about connection, balance, and responsibility. She proves that anyone, no matter their origins, can rise to greatness. Her story is a testament to the idea that the Force can find its way to the most unexpected of individuals. When Rey faces the Emperor, she does not just fight for herself. She fights for the future of the galaxy, for the legacy of the Jedi, and for the memory of those who have fallen. Her victory is a beacon of hope, showing that even in the darkest times, light can prevail. In the years following the fall of the Empire, a new hero rises, one who is far from perfect, but whose heart and sense of duty drive him to protect what matters most. The Mandalorian, Din Djarin, represents the quiet strength of those who fight for survival in a galaxy in flux. The Mandalorian is a story of redemption, of a man who seeks to honor a code while discovering the true meaning of family. His journey is not just about his own survival, but about the bond he shares with Grogu, the child who carries the remnants of the Force. Through The Mandalorian, we are reminded that heroes come in many forms. They don't always have to be wielding lightsabers or commanding armies. Sometimes, a simple bounty hunter with a heart of gold is enough to change the fate of the galaxy. The Sith, a mysterious and secretive order, have always been a dangerous force in the galaxy. Their philosophy, one of passion, power, and dominance, stands in direct contrast to the Jedi's pursuit of peace and balance. Unlike the Jedi, the Sith believe in the power of the dark side, using it to dominate and control. The Sith's obsession with power, their manipulation of fear, and their willingness to sacrifice anything to achieve their goals make them a constant threat to the galaxy. But the Sith are not invincible. In the end, their desire for absolute control leads to their own downfall. Even the Emperor, the most powerful Sith Lord in history, is undone by the very thing he tried to destroy: hope. The battle for the galaxy reaches its climax in Return of the Jedi, where the forces of the Empire stand against the united strength of the rebellion. This final stand is not just a fight for survival. It is a fight for freedom, for the future of all sentient beings in the galaxy. Luke's confrontation with his father, Darth Vader, and the Emperor is a moment of reckoning for the galaxy. It is a moment that tests Luke's belief in his father's redemption, his belief in the light, and his own place in the Force. Darth Vader's redemption is the ultimate example of the galaxy's potential for change. His final act of selflessness brings balance to the Force and ends the Emperor's reign of terror. It is a powerful reminder that even the darkest souls can find redemption. The Skywalker family's legacy is one of triumph, tragedy, and hope. From Anakin's fall to Darth Vader's redemption, to Luke's struggle to rebuild the Jedi Order and Rey's emergence as the new protector of peace, the Skywalkers have shaped the fate of the galaxy. Rey represents the culmination of the Skywalker legacy. She is both the end and the beginning, the last of a great bloodline, but also the first of a new generation of Jedi. Her journey shows that no matter where we come from, we have the power to shape our own destiny. The end of one story is always the beginning of another. The galaxy is ever-changing, and with each passing generation, the Force continues to guide us. Whether in times of peace or conflict, hope remains the most powerful force in the universe. The Force is not just an energy field. It is a part of the fabric of the universe itself. It transcends time, space, and even life and death. The Jedi, the Sith, the Mandalorians, and all those who walk the path of the Force, whether light or dark, are all part of its endless cycle. As long as there is life in the galaxy, the Force will continue to guide us, to challenge us, and to shape our destiny. The journey of the Jedi is not a solitary one. It is the journey of every living being, and every story is intertwined. Star Wars is more than just a story. It is a saga that reminds us of the eternal struggle between light and dark, the power of hope, and the belief that no matter the odds, the Force will always be with us. Always. Every great story needs its heroes, but just as important are the villains who challenge them. The Star Wars universe is full of unforgettable characters, each of whom brings their own unique qualities to the galaxy's ongoing struggle between good and evil. Luke Skywalker, the reluctant hero, begins as a farm boy on Tatooine, unaware of his destiny. His journey becomes one of self-discovery and resistance against the dark forces of the galaxy, a symbol of hope for all who dare to dream. Darth Vader, once Anakin Skywalker, is perhaps the most complex villain in cinematic history. His fall to the dark side is tragic, but his ultimate redemption is proof that no one is beyond saving, no matter how far they've fallen. Leia Organa is more than just a princess. She is a leader, a fighter, and a symbol of resistance against tyranny. Her courage and intelligence make her one of the greatest heroes of the rebellion. Han Solo, the charming rogue, starts as a smuggler but ultimately proves that there is honor in even the most unlikely of individuals. His loyalty to his friends and his cause is unwavering, even if he doesn't always show it. And then there's Boba Fett, the bounty hunter with a reputation feared across the galaxy. Though often seen as a villain, his character is one of deep mystery and respect within the criminal underworld. Ahsoka Tano's journey is one of growth, from a Padawan who once left the Jedi Order to becoming one of the galaxy's greatest defenders. Her story is a reminder that heroes come in many forms, and true strength lies in following one's own path. The Jedi and the Sith, two sides of the same coin. Their conflict is ancient, spanning millennia, and it defines much of the galaxy's history. Though their philosophies differ greatly, both orders wield the Force in powerful ways, shaping the fates of entire civilizations. The Jedi are guardians of peace, their role to protect the galaxy and maintain balance. They reject attachment and emotion, believing that the pursuit of serenity is key to wielding the Force responsibly. But, as we see with Anakin Skywalker, even the most noble Jedi can be tempted by the power of the dark side. The Sith, on the other hand, embrace their emotions, believing that passion, anger, and hatred are sources of power. Their ultimate goal is not balance, but domination of the galaxy and of the Force itself. The clash between the Jedi and the Sith is a cosmic struggle for control of the Force. As Obi-Wan and Anakin's duel on Mustafar shows, the consequences of this conflict are often devastating, not only to those involved but to the galaxy at large. But the struggle is far from over. Even after the fall of the Empire, the Jedi Order's teachings and the Sith's corrupting influence continue to echo throughout the galaxy, shaping the next generation of Force users. Star Wars is more than just a movie franchise. It is a cultural phenomenon that has shaped the landscape of cinema, television, and popular culture for over 4 decades. From the original trilogy's groundbreaking special effects to the rise of new characters and stories in The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and the Book of Boba Fett, Star Wars continues to evolve and inspire new generations. The Force is as strong as ever. The themes of Star Wars, hope, redemption, and the battle between light and dark, resonate with audiences around the world. The franchise's rich storytelling, memorable characters, and iconic imagery have become an integral part of modern mythology. Star Wars isn't just a story of a galaxy far, far away. It's a story that lives within all of us. The Force is with us all, and it continues to inspire us to believe in something greater than ourselves. While the original saga has come to a close, the universe of Star Wars is still expanding. With new series, films, and stories on the horizon, the future of the galaxy is filled with endless possibilities. From the return of beloved characters to new faces and stories, Star Wars will continue to explore the farthest reaches of the galaxy and the depths of the Force. The stories of the Jedi, the Sith, and all those in between will continue to evolve, offering new adventures, challenges, and heroes. Whether it's through new films, animated series, or video games, Star Wars will remain a living, breathing part of our cultural fabric. And as long as there are stories to tell, the galaxy will continue to beckon. The Force, an energy field that binds the galaxy together, a source of infinite power. But what truly lies behind the Force? Beyond the light and dark, there are many aspects yet to be explored. From the enigmatic wills of the Force to the concept of Force ghosts, the mysteries of this power are as vast as the galaxy itself. Jedi masters like Yoda and Qui-Gon Jinn were always aware that the Force was more than just a tool. It is a living, breathing entity with its own purpose. The wills of the Force, those ancient cosmic forces that guide destiny, remain largely a mystery, even to the wisest of Jedi. Yet, some aspects of the Force transcend death itself. Force ghosts, like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker, show us that the Force does not simply end with a passing of the physical body. It's a connection that persists, offering guidance and wisdom to those who remain. Darth Plagueis, the Dark Lord of the Sith, sought to manipulate the Force in ways that no one had before, trying to cheat death and alter the fundamental nature of life itself. His obsession with immortality, however, only led to his own destruction, illustrating the dangerous temptation of trying to control the Force. The Galactic Republic, a beacon of democracy, peace, and unity across the galaxy, once hailed as the greatest political entity in history. But as history has shown, even the most virtuous foundations can crumble under pressure. Palpatine's manipulation of the Senate and the Clone Wars themselves was a masterstroke of deception. From the shadows, he orchestrated the fall of the Republic, turning it into the tyrannical Galactic Empire. It was a tragic fall from grace, with the Senate and the Jedi unable to prevent the corruption that grew from within. The Republic's transformation into the Empire was swift and devastating, ending centuries of peace. The Empire's iron fist would suppress all who opposed it, but not without resistance. The Rebel Alliance emerged as a spark of hope in the darkness, a testament to the enduring will of the galaxy's free peoples. The Mandalorians, warriors known throughout the galaxy for their unyielding resolve and iconic Beskar armor. Their history is as complex as it is bloody, filled with stories of battles, betrayals, and honor. Once a great and feared people, the Mandalorians faced their greatest challenge during the rise of the Galactic Empire. The Mandalorian Wars were one of the most pivotal events in galactic history. The Mandalorians, led by figures like Mandalore the Ultimate, waged brutal campaigns against the Jedi and the Republic. But their pride led to their downfall. Defeated by the Jedi, they were nearly wiped out, their civilization shattered. Even so, their legacy lived on, especially through the Darksaber, an ancient weapon forged by the first Mandalorian Jedi. The Darksaber became a symbol of leadership and power, passed down through the ages, and ultimately tied to the fate of Mandalore itself. Today, the Mandalorians continue to fight for their place in the galaxy, caught between the pull of their ancient traditions and the changing tides of power. The Mandalorian series has breathed new life into their culture, showing the ongoing conflict and struggle for identity that defines this proud people. The Clone Wars, an epic conflict that spanned a galaxy, drawing in countless planets, systems, and individuals. This brutal war set the stage for the rise of the Empire and the fall of the Jedi Order. But it was also a war of immense tragedy and heroism. Jedi generals like Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi fought alongside the clones they led, developing bonds that would be tested in unimaginable ways. Anakin's descent into Darth Vader was one of the most devastating consequences of the war, as the seeds of betrayal were planted even as the Republic sought victory. But the war was not just about the battle between the Republic and the Separatists. The secret creation of the clone army on Kamino, engineered by Jedi Master Sifo-Dyas, was a mystery that would unravel as the true puppet masters of the galaxy, Darth Sidious and Count Dooku, revealed their plans for galactic domination. The Clone Wars reached their tragic conclusion with the execution of Order 66. The Jedi, once the Guardians of Peace, were hunted down and killed by their own soldiers, leaving the galaxy in the hands of the Emperor. It was the end of an era and the beginning of a new, darker chapter in the galaxy's history. The Skywalkers, one family at the center of the Star Wars saga. Their legacy is defined by power, destiny, and the constant struggle between light and dark. From Anakin Skywalker's fall to Darth Vader to Rey's ultimate triumph over the darkness, the Skywalker bloodline represents the power of choice, the consequences of one's actions, and the potential for redemption. Rey's journey as the last Skywalker is a fitting conclusion to the saga. Her journey reminds us that the future is not written by the past. The choices we make today shape the galaxy of tomorrow. And while the Skywalker family may be at an end, their story will resonate for generations to come. Would you like to explore any of these themes further? Or would you prefer to dive into something else within the Star Wars universe? The dark side, where power, temptation, and corruption reside. Many have been lured by its promise of strength and control, yet few escape its grasp without losing their very soul. Anakin Skywalker's fall from Jedi Knight to Darth Vader is the most tragic example of the dark side's allure. His desire to protect those he loved, paired with his fear of loss, became his undoing. The dark side promised him the power to prevent death, but it only led to his own destruction and the loss of everything he held dear. Emperor Palpatine, a master of deception, knew how to exploit Anakin's fears and desires. His manipulation turned the once hopeful Jedi into an agent of darkness. The dark side is not just about raw power. It's about making choices that chip away at one's humanity until all that remains is a shadow of the person who once was. The Rebel Alliance, the galaxy's last hope against the tyranny of the Galactic Empire. Heroes like Princess Leia, Han Solo, and Luke Skywalker stood against the Empire's iron grip, risking everything for the freedom of the galaxy. Leia Organa, a princess, a senator, and a warrior, was one of the true leaders of the rebellion. Despite her royal lineage, she never shied away from the fight, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Her courage, determination, and compassion made her one of the most important figures in the struggle against the Empire. Han Solo, once a smuggler with no loyalty to anyone but himself, became one of the greatest heroes of the rebellion. His quick wit, unmatched piloting skills, and willingness to fight for something greater than himself helped turn the tide in the war against the Empire. Luke Skywalker's journey is the heart of the rebellion. A young farm boy with dreams of adventure, he became the symbol of hope for the galaxy. Through trials, loss, and sacrifice, Luke became the Jedi who would eventually redeem his father and destroy the Empire's rule. Prophecies have always played a significant role in shaping the destiny of the galaxy. From the rise of the Chosen One to the fall of the Sith, visions of the future have guided the Jedi and the Sith alike, though often in vastly different ways. The prophecy of the Chosen One foretold of a Jedi who would bring balance to the Force. But the true meaning of this prophecy remains a mystery. Was Anakin Skywalker truly the chosen one? Or did his fall represent the balance the prophecies spoke of? One thing is certain, prophecies are often as much a burden as they are a guide. The Jedi, bound by their code of neutrality, often rejected such prophecies, seeing them as potential traps. But the Sith, who embraced power and destiny, used these visions to further their goals, manipulating the galaxy toward their own dark ends. The Battle of Endor, the final showdown between the Rebel Alliance and the Galactic Empire. It was here, amid the chaos of space combat and the clash of armies, that the fate of the galaxy was sealed. The Empire, led by Emperor Palpatine, had one last card to play, a second, more powerful Death Star, capable of destroying entire planets. But this time, the rebels were ready, and they had one final chance to stop the Emperor's reign. While the rebel fleet engaged in the battle above, Luke Skywalker confronted his father, Darth Vader, and the Emperor in the heart of the Death Star. It was here that Luke faced his greatest challenge, not just to defeat the Empire, but to save his father from the darkness that had consumed him for so long. The Emperor, in his arrogance, believed that his hold over Vader, and by extension, the galaxy, was unbreakable. But Luke's love and faith in his father proved stronger than the dark side. With the Emperor's death, the Empire crumbled, and the galaxy was finally freed from its grasp. The Mandalorians, a warrior people defined by honor, tradition, and battle. Their culture is rich in history, built on the ideals of strength, loyalty, and respect. Yet, their past is also fraught with conflict, both internal and external. The Mandalorians were not always unified. The wars between different clans and factions were legendary, and their struggle for supremacy often caused rifts that would last generations. But through it all, they remained a people bound by their creed. This is the way. Through the struggles of the past and the rise of new leaders, such as Din Djarin, the Mandalorians continue to fight for their survival. The Darksaber, an ancient weapon tied to their leadership, remains a powerful symbol of their resilience and their identity as a people. The fall of the Empire brought the rise of the New Republic, an attempt to restore democracy to the galaxy. Yet, even as the New Republic sought peace, remnants of the Empire remained, ever threatening to reignite the war. While the New Republic provided hope, it also proved fragile. The First Order, a dark shadow of the Empire, began to rise from the ashes of its predecessor, challenging the fragile peace that the galaxy had worked so hard to restore. Would you like to delve deeper into any of these stories or explore new aspects of the Star Wars universe?